I tried to be objective about this.
All right. Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. This is Kenoshi Abominito here with Project Console, episode 25. We are powerful, and we are powerful. And before we get into our topics, I'd like my panelists to introduce themselves. Jewel, would you like to start us off?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Project Console. I'm Drew Lemonstein. I'm glad to at least enjoy this final time that we'll do this podcast in March.
Yeah, this is the last podcast for March.
Yeah.
Mr. Red Fox?
This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters, and I'm glad to be on another one of these. Looking forward to the topics we discussed tonight.
Alright, this is Kenoshi Abominito, as I said earlier. And, first topic. It's not in the description, but Mr. Red Fox just told me before the cast that Breath of the Wild 2 just got pushed back another year. And am I surprised? Nah, I'm not surprised. Are any of you surprised?
Nope.
I'm not surprised at all. Though, if anything, I can already hear some people saying this is going to be another cross-platformer.
Yeah,
or another cross-gen.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a cross-platformer. I don't, at this point, I don't think it will be, but if Nintendo said, F it, this is a nice swan song to end the Switch on, go into our new hardware, I wouldn't be surprised. But I went on the Nintendo official website, it's not website, YouTube channel where the Nintendo fans were, someone wrote, "I'm crushed." Like, why are you so emotionally invested? Like, with all the stuff coming, even if all you have is the Switch, with all the stuff coming out to the Switch this year, would you have time to really play Breath of the Wild 2? Really?
Yeah.
I have to wonder about that.
They did not really show all that much at E3. I mean, that's why I was like, well, when they said 2022, it's like, yeah, this game's getting pushed back another year. Because they actually showed the game running or whatever. Saw Link running around. I saw the different areas that you were going to, like in the sky and whatnot. But they didn't show much. So I was like, yeah, this game is getting pushed back another year.
Considering that a lot of the games that have hit the Switch that are very resource intensive have run like ass, and considering the stuff they want to do in Breath of the Wild 2, they probably did have to push it back to get it to run as well as they could on the hardware.
Yeah, they might be, again, I'm not saying this is going to be a fix-all, but they might also be figuring out how to implement the AMD FX program, which is their DLSS equivalent. So
yeah, but that only really works on AMD graphics cards.
No, it's an open source. Yeah,
but it works best on AMD graphics cards, is what I'm saying. Yeah, and you have to have a decent graphics card in order for it to run in the first place. And the Switch, unfortunately, is using something that was like low mid-tier when it came out 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like this. You can take a riding lawnmower engine and you can spec the ever-loving crap out of it. But at the end of the day, it's still a lawnmower engine.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I say this as someone who, a lot of times I love when games are, like, some of my favorite games were done on lesser hardware, and the limitations, the hardware limitations, made a better game. Like, the best version of Daikatana is on the Game Boy Color because of the limitations of the hardware. Link's Awakening, in my personal opinion, I prefer the Game Boy and Game Boy Colors of versions of Link's Awakening because of the hardware limitations. I think the remake is trash.
Yeah, I think it was way more expensive than it needed to be. That's for sure. $60 for what's essentially a souped up Game Boy port.
Well, the way I look at it, my issue isn't just the price. I'm like, okay, like the impetus behind Link's Awakening was initially they wanted to do a port of Link to the Past to the Game Boy.
Yeah.
And then like in the pre-production they were like, yeah, the Game Boy just doesn't have, like, if we scaled this down, it would be a really bad version of Link to the Past on the Game Boy. So they're like, we'll embrace the hardware limitations and make something new. And you got Link's Awakening, which, I mean, hands down, I mean, I'll be honest with you. If Link to the Past is the best like traditional Legend of Zelda game, I would say Link's Awakening is a close second.
Yeah.
But then you get, okay, so you make a remake of the game on the Switch, and they don't really add anything new. That, like, despite all of the hardware power that's available to them, it's a game that is like less charming, has less stuff going on in some ways than the Game Boy and Game Boy Color remake. Re-release, Link's Awakening DX. It's like all this power, and you've used it for nothing. Nothing really interesting. I mean, you have the same thing going on with Pokemon, where they like do like they did Sword and Shield, and it's like this is functionally is the same thing we've had on the 3DS for years now. Just, it's in 3D, it's in full 3D versus isometric kind of whatever. I just think that it could be better. Like hardware, like I'm not against hardware limitations, but I also have a realistic view that at a certain point, it's kind of like on PCs back in the day. Like there was way back in the day, in the mid 90s, in the early 90s, mid 90s, you could upgrade your CPU and it opened up a new door of gaming to you. Like if you went from a 286 to a 386 to a 486, you had access to new gaming. But at a certain point, you had to get the newest stuff in order to play the newest stuff, Yeah. And that's just the way it is. Like a console, you can only push a console so far until you have to, it begins to show its age. The problem with the Switch is that it was showing its age with some of the first games that came to the system. Like, like you play Breath of the Wild. Like I said, for me, Breath of the Wild crashed 3 times. I've never had a Nintendo first-party game crash while I was playing it. Like everyone's like, yeah, I'm looking forward to Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm like, I'm not. If Xenoblade Chronicles 3 runs like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the trailer, because I saw the trailer a couple times, it looked way more stable than Xenoblade Chronicles 2 did. Because I remember when I first saw the first trailer of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that game, even in the trailer, in the opening trailer, looked like it was chugging.
But, like I said, not surprised that Breath of the Wild 2 was pushed back, was delayed, because they got to get that game stable.
Yeah.
And, like, Breath of the Wild 2 can't be more Breath of the Wild 1. Like, they have to move it forward. It has to be bigger. There has to be more at stake. There has to be more stuff going on. And that game ran, like, if you were in a fight with a lot of enemies and there was a lot of stuff going on, that game would struggle. And you can't have a game 5 plus 6 years, well, by next year it'll be 6 years into the life cycle of your console running like ass on your hardware.
Yeah.
Not if it's your first party game. If it's a third party game, who cares? Because they don't care. But first party, you got to put a bit more effort into it. So, maybe they're overhauling the engine, or maybe they're reallocating how the coding is being done. I don't know, but they got to do something.
So, our next topic, who was asking for a Chrono Cross remake? Who says the owl? Who is asking for a Chrono Cross remake? I've seen headlines saying why Chrono Cross deserves a remake more than Chrono Trigger. And like, what are you smoking? What sort of drugs are you smoking? And can I
get some? Because it's good.
That nonsense sound. That junk sounds amazing. So,
I mean, considering that they remastered Chrono Trigger, to an extent, it makes sense that they would remaster the sequel. My problem is that Chrono Cross is like
it's not even that
they had the
bad.
same studio. They had the same studio, a lot of the same people working on that game, and it still isn't as good as Chrono Trigger. So I don't know.
It's not even that Chrono Cross is necessarily a bad game. It's just it uses the Chrono name, so it's just like the Chrono.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
like
guess
it's
that,
not really connected to Chrono Trigger. Like had it been its own thing, had they just called it something else and not tried to connect it to Chrono Trigger, I don't think people would have been as irate to Chrono Cross. But considering that they try so hard to connect it to Chrono Trigger and it's such a lesser sequel compared to the original, that kind of like people like me who are like, yeah, F that game.
yeah.
But I mean, I can't get angry at people who want to play a remaster of that game because if you want to play Chrono Cross, you can either download it off of the PSN, and that's it. Like either that or find the original, find a PS1 or backwards compatible PS2 and get a disc. And good luck finding a Chrono Cross. Well, discs because I think it was 2 discs. Good luck finding the physical copy of Chrono Cross because they didn't print a lot of those discs.
Yeah.
Or pirate it. Those are your choices.
Yeah. I don't know. I was, I played a little bit of that game back in college because I had a friend that had in college that had the PlayStation disc, so I was able to play it off because through the emulator. The emulator can read PlayStation discs, so I was able to play it off through there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was again the game was okay. The premise was interesting. I think it was a bad game. I just didn't like the fact that it used the.
They tried to connect it to Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, try to connect.
And there's no real connection aside from the only connection is that they try to say that Kid is a fracture of Shayla from Chrono Trigger.
Or Scala or whatever.
Scala. I always pronounced it Shayla. Kid is a she's basically a fractured part of Shayla's consciousness that somehow through plot logic fractured instead of because in Chrono Trigger it's all about different time periods, and it's heavily implied in Chrono Trigger that Shayla, when her body is devoured by Lavos, a part of her consciousness fuses with time itself, and like that's basically who's been opening portals and letting you change certain time periods from that point forward. Like that's the person who opens up a time portal that lets Luca save her mother from getting her legs crushed, and that's who opens up a portal that essentially enables what's his name, Robo to plant that forest. Like all these sorts of little things where it's like, man, how did this time portal open? It's implied that Shayla does that. It's not explicitly stated, but it's implied. But somehow in Chrono Cross, a part of her consciousness also went into an alternate dimension and became Kid. Like you see how it's so convoluted. Y'all should have just made your own game and not
honestly,
connected to Chrono Trigger.
I think this is probably what happened. Is that this was supposed to possibly be a game, a standalone game, but for some reason the executives weren't pleased. They're like, we need to figure out how to connect this to another franchise in order for it to sell.
Yeah.
Thus we get Chrono Cross. It's like,
Chrono Trigger was a huge game.
It was a huge game.
It sold well. When they re-released it, it sold well on the PlayStation. And they were like, okay, we'll connect it to that.
Yeah, so we need to jerry-rig this story in order to somehow fit Chrono Trigger and it failed spectacular. You know, it would have been better off if it was just its own standalone thing, apart from the Chrono series.
Yeah, I agree. But that's my own personal opinion. Like Chrono Cross, if you play it as just a game and not not connected to Chrono Trigger, is actually not bad. It's really not bad. The offensive thing is that they try to connect it to Chrono Trigger, and it's like, no, get GTFO. This is no.
Yeah.
Not to mention it has like 47 different characters, but none of them are really interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas Chrono Trigger has 7, and aside from Chrono, the other 6 are really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird that there are people that gush over this game. It's just like, I guess, you know, for whatever reason it's part of their childhood, but you know, if they
I mean, Chrono Cross fans are like every weird, like there are people who love Xenogears. I never really saw the big deal about it, but some people love it. There are people who are crazy about that game with Cosmos and stuff like that. People who love that game. There are people like I'm a huge fanboy about Tales of Arcadia and Skies of Arcadia and Baten Kaitos, but not everyone loves that game. So you know, every RPG has its fans. So you know, this is for them.
Yeah.
And they get to release it. They're releasing it on the Switch, which is right now still the highest selling 9th gen console on the market. So, I mean, even if it only reaches 10-15% of that base, that's still like millions of sales. So,
yeah.
You know, it's like at the end of the day, this is about money.
Yeah.
This is about money. Jewel, you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, you.
I'm honestly not sure what to say because I basically don't have a big connection with Chrono Cross. I mean, at least not fan wise. The story, I mean, still as far as you know, child pass and stuff. And if anything, I'm not minding that the DS remake of Chrono Trigger tried to link it a little bit to Chrono Cross, as in it tried to make sense. Though the gameplay part of it is probably what's keeping me from saying that it's an okay idea. Probably off as it is.
All right.
So yeah, I think I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of a Jewel. I haven't really played, you know, a significant amount of Chrono Cross to be like, well, you know, I just find it annoying that they try to connect it to Chrono Trigger. That's essentially it. Is it what I've played of it? Is it bad? No, it's not bad, but should have just been a standalone thing. But is there anything else you guys like to bring up about this topic before we move on to the next?
One thing I'll say is this: even though we're kind of poking fun at who asked for a Chrono Cross remake, there still is a fan base of people that wanted a remake of this game. Whereas no one was asking for Final Fantasy Origins. Like nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anything, even if I'm not a fan of Chrono Cross, I say this is going to be a lot better than Final Fantasy Origins.
Nobody asked for a Final Fantasy Origins. They released it, and nobody still wants of Final Fantasy Origins. So,
I think
better
Final
luck
Fantasy
next
Origins
time.
is doing better than Babylon's Fall, though.
Oh well, but I guess that's not hard.
I was gonna say, should I ask?
I think
If it's
Babylon's Fall had a free demo, and only 30 people were playing it.
Oh Lord, that had to hurt.
Yeah, that game is dead.
Yeah, I kind of feel sorry for Square, not Square Enix, but
I feel
Platinum.
sorry for Platinum. Yeah, because
Platinum.
people are saying, "Oh, how dare they?" I'm like, look, Platinum is a independent studio. If someone says we're going to pay you X amount of money to make this game, like if any other job, like if you're a contractor, someone says we're going to pay you X amount of money to add this shed to the house. Your job isn't to say, well, why do you want a shed? Your job is, okay, pay me the money, I'll put the shed on the house, even if it makes no effing sense whatsoever. That's your job. And so, Platinum was paid to do that. That's what they were paid to do, and they did what they were paid to do. If you want to get mad at someone, get mad at Square Enix for being greedy and adding all that pay-to-play BS in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also another thing about Babylon's Fall, it just is like, man, I remember seeing it. It looked pretty cool, and then Square had to come in and ruin it.
Yep.
Yeah. But other speaking of ruining stuff, the Gran Turismo 7 exploit to boost how many credits it can be earned. So essentially, so probably about a week ago, there were a few people that figured out like an exploit to essentially have the game play itself in a way to get more in-game money. So they were getting like it was like 500 million credit. I don't know if it's that much, either 500,000 or 500 million credits every hour. So, um, so people were figuring out a way to cheat the system, because if you pay $70, drop $70 for a game, and you gotta pay more money for the cars. Most people aren't gonna be happy about that. But thoughts? No.
Uh,
I thought Jewel was going to say something, so I was being quiet.
I'm trying
Let her
to
go.
I'm trying to process it because Gran Turismo, it's supposed to be a sim racing game, and yet it's simulating life so much that it looks like a second job.
Yeah, but I mean, if you know anything about Sims, like if you played a lot of Sims or even looked at like the storefronts of
I
Sim
was
games,
I was
like
gonna say that I know the simulations are supposed to mimic real life, and some of them do get details so precise. But I wonder how precise is too precise.
I mean, actually, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say that most Sim games like expensive as AF DLC. Like you play Microsoft Flight Simulator. If you want to buy certain airplanes,
I was gonna say, I take that and raise you a train simulation system.
well, that's what I'm saying. Train Simulator does the same thing. I haven't really gotten into it this gen, but last gen I played the ever loving daylights out of racing, racing games like Monaco Grand Prix, stuff like that, and like had the steering wheel peripherals and paddles and all of that. And those games are expensive. Like with the DLC and everything, it's expensive. With the peripherals, it's expensive. With the different cars you can add, if you don't want to spend time racing in career mode to get the money to buy the stuff, it's expensive. So, I mean, like I can see where people are outraged, and I think that Sony went too far. But I mean, it is a racing sim, and that's kind of like I think we said this on my own podcast, where if they were smart, they would have done like an arcadey Gran Turismo, and release that, like something that was cheap for them to make, but had like that same like insanely good racing feel to it, and like release that, and maybe like said, it's like $50, and maybe it only like $50. It's digital only, so we get that full 50. We sell it. We make a lot of money, and then we use that to make this game our prestige title. But it's Sony. They got greedy. Sony's always getting greedy. That's their MO.
I'm scrolling through the train simulator, and the DLC goes on and on.
Yep.
So it'd probably cost thousands of dollars to get
Yeah.
all this DLC.
So I'll be honest with you, like Gran Turismo's not that bad. If you're really into simulators, which like, the thing is, people who play simulators, that is a very niche market, and they're willing to spend a lot of money for their authenticity.
Yeah.
So like, I know people are getting angry. They're like, "Oh, how could you?" It's like, look, man, you are the guys who wanted all these licensed vehicles. You are the guys who wanted to race on these real world tracks. Well, guess what? Sony has to spend money to license those vehicles and license those tracks. It's very expensive.
Yeah, so roughly there are how many of it? There are 653
I wouldn't be surprised if it's
pieces of DLC for Train Simulator.
Yep.
And what's the price of entry?
I was gonna say, if you're trying to get every train, you're gonna be nearing millions.
Obviously it's $30 for the base model, and then you go all the way up to like buy the deluxe. It's $50 for the deluxe for 2022, so it's not like it's a free to play game either. But yeah, most people play on consoles. I really think they should have possibly either sold it at like a reduced price, or had to use some kind of free to play model. But I don't know. Something to because obviously they wanted to make this a live service game where they don't have to make another Gran Turismo for another 10 years. They can keep this going. The game looks pretty good, so they can just keep adding cars and keep licensing out various different cars.
I mean, like I said, they didn't do their monetization properly. What they should have done was done like expansion packs. It's like, hey, here's a garage. You can buy a garage of cars, $60.
Yeah.
But you get like a decent array of cars and maybe some new tracks and stuff. And people would have said, well, if they support this game for the next, 5-10 years, like 5 years and then they do a next gen version, and then another 5 years on top of that, no one would say anything. They'd be like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
But they got greedy because Sony's stupid like that.
Yeah. And unfortunately. Because of all the stuff that's happened with Gran Turismo 7, the developers apologize for how they've been supporting the game. So they came out, apologized, said that they were going to give people like 1 million credits, some other stuff. I don't know. I was saying maybe instead of apologizing and putting a band-aid over the situation, maybe rethink your monetization scheme for one thing, and not have your servers crash.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that probably would have been the smart thing to do, but once again, we're talking about Sony, and Sony is great.
How it rolls.
Sony is great at marketing. I give them 100% credit for their marketing. Their marketing is great. But when it comes to actually supporting their consoles, it's hit or miss. and supporting their games, it's hit or miss. And it's a shame that these developers, which say whatever you want to about Gran Turismo, but it is one of the premier IPs of Sony. It's their highest selling first party IP. And for them to basically they're basically throwing their developers under the bus for upper management's bad decisions. Because I'm pretty sure the developers weren't like, yeah, let's have aggressive microtransactions so our players hate us. No developer on earth is saying that with their game. That was upper management saying, you have to put this in here so that we can make more money on it.
I mean, you know,
That was probably Chocobo GP's marketing idea. Oh boy.
I mean, they threw Hello Games under the bus, but that's one thing. I'm not saying that isn't terrible because.
Well, Hello Games wasn't a first-party studio.
It wasn't a first-party studio. It's not that the developers of Gran Turismo 7 is a premier studio. It's their best. It's their best-selling IP on their system. It's like, why would you do this?
Like, what people need to understand is that when you are a first-party studio, like, let's equate this to a family. A first-party studio is like, okay, Nintendo's like the parents, the mom, and the dad. The first-party studio are the kids. Okay? Basically, second-party studios are like the cousins. Third-party studios are like that kid down the street who occasionally comes home and eats at the dinner table. Yeah, but, like, you don't want anything bad to happen to that kid, but you're not going to really go all out of your way for that kid, typically speaking.
Yeah.
Like, no, but it's not like, oh man, if that kid got run over, you'd be like, yeah, forget that kid. But it's like, I'm going to help my cousin, I'm going to help my nephew and my own kids before I help that kid. Sony threw Hello Games under the bus, but Hello Games was an independent third party. So, you know, it is what it is. But now they're throwing their own kids under the bus, and it's like, come on, man. Y'all the ones made them do that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. There's also a discussion about, you know, maybe they could get rid of the always online, but the problem with the game is that they would actually have to create a patch that you would have to download, meaning since the game already ships with an always online patch, you essentially would always have to connect to the PlayStation Store. What happens when the PlayStation Store disappears? The game is just nothing more than a coaster on your table.
Or one of those every 4 to 6 months where the PlayStation Store is undergoing like a 3 or 4 day maintenance. Your game is useless for, you know, almost a week. Yeah. Multiple times a year. I mean, look, this is the problem with always online. And a lot of games and online DRM. And this isn't just a Sony issue. Multiple consoles do this. If you want to get the full all the benefits of any of these consoles, all of them, Switch, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, you have to have an online connection. And if you don't, there's going to be features you're not going to have. You want to play your Nintendo online library? Got to check into the Nintendo servers, because if it doesn't, it's just a useless software package on your console. You know, you want to use your Game Pass? It's got to check into the Xbox online servers, and if it doesn't, it's just a useless package on your console. And PlayStation is the most egregious because they're charging you like $60 for it. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But you know, they all basically want to control how you play your games, which, I mean, if the games were cheaper, like if these companies were saying the digital version of our game is $10 cheaper than the physical version, I would say, okay, fair enough. Then, you know, I'll have to be chained into your garden. But when you're charging the same price across everything, and I'm getting no benefits aside from the convenience of being able to download the game and play it right there, like, I don't really want to be tied to, I have to be online to play this. You know? But that's my own personal opinion.
Yeah. I guess while we're on the topic of Sony, we can talk about their lovely PlayStation Plus subscription service. I don't know if anybody actually looked into this at all, or
I looked at the pricing. It's what we like to call in my line of business a load of bovine scatology.
oh gee, yeah, I haven't quite looked into it because I didn't know they announced it today. But yeah, here's the benefits. Provides the same benefits that the PlayStation Plus members are getting today, such as 2 monthly downloadable games, exclusive discounts, cloud storage for saved games, online multiplayer access. There are no changes to existing PlayStation Plus members in this tier. Price for PlayStation Plus Essentials remain the same as the current price for PlayStation Plus. United States, $9.99 monthly, $2.49 quarterly, $59.99 a year. And for Europe, $59.99 a year. For United Kingdom, $49.99 a year, and so forth and so forth and so on. PlayStation Plus Extra benefits provides all the benefits from the essential tier. Adds a catalog of up to 400 plus of the most enjoyable PS4, PS5 games, including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studio catalog and third-party partners. Game in the extra tier are downloadable for play. Price $14.99 a month, $39.99 quarterly, $100 a year. Okay. Europe, $13.99 monthly, $39.99 quarterly, $99 a year. United Kingdom, $10.99, $31.99, $83.99, and Japan, 1,300 yen, 3,600 yen quarterly, 8,600 yen yearly. PlayStation Plus Premium provides all the benefits of essential and extra tier, adds up to the 340 plus additional games. Additional games, including PS3 games available via cloud streaming, a catalog of beloved classic games available in both streaming and download options from the original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP generation. Offers cloud streaming access for original PlayStation, PS2, PSP, and PS4 games offered in the extra premium tier in markets where PlayStation Now is currently available. Customers that can stream games using PS4 or PS5 consoles and PC. Time-limited games trials will also be offered in this tier, so customers that can try select games before they buy. And here are the prices. United States, $17.99 a month, $49.99 quarterly, $119.99 a year. Europe, $60.99, $49.99, €119.99. United Kingdom, $13.99, $39.99, $99.99 pounds, and then Japan, $1,500 monthly, $4,300 quarterly, $10,250 yearly. Gee. So this is it. So PlayStation Plus Deluxe select markets for markets without cloud stream. PlayStation Plus Deluxe will be offered at a lower price compared to the premium and include a catalog of beloved classic games from the original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP generations to download and play, along with time-limited games trials. Benefits from essential and extra tiers are also included. Local pricing will vary by market. So, yeah, this sounds actually kind of lame. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm
and it's like it's not.
I'm pinching the bridge between my eyes right now. Especially hearing how much it costs per year.
I'm not feeling it.
All I'm going to say is this:
I'm not feeling it.
Microsoft is going to be laughing all the way to the bank because Game Pass is the better deal.
Yeah, let's go look at Game Pass Ultimate price. Or how much is Game Pass Ultimate for 1 year?
Mm-hmm.
So 12 months Game Pass Ultimate is $65 a year. And so that gets you cloud you're able to play cloud games. You're able to play the class, some of the Xbox 360 classics. You're able to play the games on Game Pass. So, yeah, I mean, Game Pass still seems like the best deal out there.
Plus, it's on PC.
Yeah, plus it's on PC.
Which means you don't have to own an Xbox Series X in order to use Game Pass. Get PC Game Pass and get access to a lot of the same games. Sony like this is Sony's attempting to do what Microsoft is doing, and it's failing. Just like when Sony tried to do PS Move was their answer to Wii.
Yeah.
And it failed miserably.
I was going to say that was a crash.
This is just them rebranding PlayStation Now. That's all they're doing. It's not really anything new. It's not really anything different.
No one was using PlayStation Now.
Yeah, it's just them rebranding PlayStation Now. This is all this is. It's a rebranding.
They're loading it. They're rolling it into PlayStation Plus. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Well, that was a big nothing burger.
And they don't even they don't even give you an incentive to have PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, well, you get 2 games that you're renting. You don't own them. You're renting them. Because as soon as PlayStation Plus is over, those games are gone. Now, I'll give Xbox Gold a pass on this. You get something with Xbox Gold, games for gold. Once you download those games, they're yours. Even if you no longer have gold, you have access to those games. Yeah. Sony couldn't even do you that solid.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my hope was that it essentially be Game Pass with the PlayStation
Sony
logo. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Being able to subscribe to this service that isn't attached to PlayStation Plus, because I don't really care too much about PlayStation Plus. And then being able to download a lot of the classic games from the PS1, PS2 era, and being able to have access to that stuff. But
they're just sorry.
No.
I mean, even if Sony did this, even if Sony pulled a Nintendo online library where they're like, look, if you pay $60 a year, you get access to our PlayStation retro library, which is basically like our PS1, PS2 games, and they had like, let's say you got 15% of the total libraries that were on the PS1 and the PS2. That's still a lot of games.
Yeah.
Nah, they're gonna do this BS, and that's exactly what it is.
Man.
Just some BS.
What's going over there? What's going on over there at Sony? What's going on?
Jim Ryan is the new CEO, and Jim Ryan is a greedy bastard. There you go.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I mean, maybe next time. Maybe next time. I don't know. I just wish these companies were better at preserving their classic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's not forget, this is the same company that did the PlayStation Classic, and literally instead of optimizing the emulation, they grabbed a bunch of ROMs they had the license to, regardless of what region they were from, and did a basic, PlayStation 1 emulator with no optimization whatsoever for the titles and the software, and put it on a board and then shipped that out. And they were surprised that it flopped. Surprised, like, oh, we can't believe this flopped. It's like, because you guys didn't put any care or attention into the product.
Yeah.
But that's Sony's MO. You know, we'll do. Sony doesn't care about their products, but they will put a lot of care and attention in marketing their products.
Yeah.
And people act surprised. Oh, well, you know.
All right. Anything else before we move on to the next egregious action?
I got nothing. That's it. I just want to say that.
So, GTA 5 will never die. It'll live on forever. If you think GTA 6 is coming out anytime soon, take a
Pardon
breath.
me for this, but I'm just groaning here. If I remember right, how bad is it?
Take a breath. Take a breath. Don't hold your breath. Take a breath, or your lungs will collapse. So, Rockstar, in their infinite wisdom, decided, hey, let's make a subscription service for GTA 5 and squeeze the ever-living daylights out of these people for more money. So GTA will have a subscription service. So you'll have reoccurring money, which is like $500,000 a month, which is nothing really. Claim properties, members only discounts, and more. So, they're treating this game like some kind of cobbled together MMO. And they have, I guess now it's that portion of the game is free to play. So yeah.
Say I'm surprised. I mean, if you have a fan base of dumbasses, and if you're paying money to play GTA Online, you're a dumbass. If you have a group of people who will basically spend real world money for shark cards, for fake world money, a game that basically charges you that in-game currency in order to maintain your quote-unquote lifestyle, like every 30 minutes is an in-game day, and that you spend a certain amount of money in order to maintain your lifestyle. So you're penalized for doing well on GTA Online. Like if you do enough heists and get yourself a nice apartment and nice cars and all that type of stuff, you lose money to maintain your lifestyle. Okay? You're penalized for that.
So you're paying.
I was gonna say
that doesn't sound fun.
I was gonna say
it isn't.
Real life is cheaper than life in GTA, and that's scary as F.
Not really, you know, unless you're living with family and they're letting you sit on them. But if you're actually like, you know, living on your own, paying your own bills, have your own bankroll and stuff like that, it's depending on where you live, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is that the in-game economy is hyper-inflated, so everything is more expensive than it would be in a real-world sense. So, like, let's say you want to buy, like, the cheapest vehicle you can get in GTA Online is a bicycle. A bicycle's like $30,000.
Wait, what? Did I hear that?
It's like $30,000, or at least it was at one time. It's probably gone down now, but I remember playing GTA Online and just like some of the basic, like the cheapest car you could get, like a real piece of shit car, was like $50,000. Like it was ridiculous.
I'm trying not to blue screen here, cause
It was
hearing something as cost effective as the bike, at least as for not being so high maintenance, cost that much.
I hear people talk about it at work, like, man, I can't wait to get on GTA Online. It's like, oh, jeez. I mean, with just what you're describing, it doesn't sound like fun. It sounds like work. It's like you go home from work to go to work.
I mean, this is why people were angry at how difficult it was to mod. Like all of their resources went into modding GTA Online, which is why you got no single player content for GTA 5.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so. And why should they when you've got dumbasses spending real money for fake money in a game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You have no incentive. Now, people found ways around that. Like, if you log out from your server and go to another server before your day is over. So, let's say you log in, you do a heist, and then you leave that server and go jump to another server. It resets your timer so you don't lose money on your properties. But I mean, why should you have to do all those workarounds to enjoy playing your game? When it's GTA Online is trash.
Yeah.
And them adding a subscription service to it, it's brilliant because a lot of dumbasses are going to buy into it. Well, if I pay $6.99 a month, I can have all this content and I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Strauss Zelnick, whose name sounds like a Bond villain, is it's never going to get any better as long as people continue to buy this game. They have no incentive. They have zero fucking incentive to make a new game. It's like as long as people continue to buy Pokemon, no matter how mediocre and half-assed it may be, they have no incentive.
Yeah.
They have no incentive to come out with better Pokemon games.
Yeah. GTA 5 forever. That's what the next version should be.
That's what they're going to do.
Forever. GTA 6 is just going to be a GTA 5
Vaporware?
No, it's going to be a GTA 5 clone.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they have no incentive to change.
Nope.
I mean, if people will just spend huge amounts of money, if people are willing to spend huge amounts of money on GTA 5, then there's no incentive for them to revamp or move the franchise forward, which is why you're going to continue to get, mediocre gameplay, crap shooting, trash driving physics, Never gonna end.
Yeah. So, for our next to last topic, Nvidia announced a few days ago that they're creating their own CPU for servers, which is interesting since they've never had a history, as far as I know, unless there's information to prove otherwise, that they've made a CPU in the past. But yeah, so obviously I was just I found it interesting just for the fact that that CPU could get cut down at some point and put into consumer hardware, but and they claim that it also it's comparable to the Epic Rome AMD CPU, but again,
Yeah.
AMD that's pretty been in the CPU game for a pretty long time.
I'm not trusting
Yeah.
a company who's just making a GPU, a CPU, that hasn't made a CPU ever. This is their first CPU. I'm not going to trust any claims they make.
Yeah.
Not trusting it. Not trusting it.
Yeah, I'm sure the logic and mathematics and all the elements that go into making a chip, I'm sure it's a lot different. I'm sure making a CPU is a heck of a lot different than making a GPU.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll trust a company that's been doing it for years. Like AMD's been making CPUs for years. Intel's been making CPUs for years. I would trust ARM for making a variant of a CPU because they've been making stuff like that for years. But Nvidia is their first one.
Yeah.
Clearly they want to get into the server game like Intel and AMD have. Like Intel's been there for years, and AMD's gotten there in the last 5-10 years. So that's what this is about.
Yeah, they want a piece.
They want a piece of that pie. Yeah, they want a piece of that pie. That's what this is.
I'd figure graphics would just be as. I guess it depends what the server is doing. But yeah, and while we're on the topic of Nvidia, reviews for the RTX 3090 Ti just came out, and it's a chunky card for one thing. It's 450 watts of power is the power draw. So that's pretty crazy. It starts out at $2,000, so Mr. Red Fox can probably afford like 10 of them.
No,
not easy.
No. Let me put it this way: if I had $2,000+, you got to think tax, so $220. If I had that money just lying around for a PC, like for a PC build, I wouldn't be blowing it on an Nvidia graphics card. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
If I was doing a $5,000 build, maybe, but
that's a little much.
Well, no, a $5,000 PC build, like it sounds like if you're spending $2,000+ on a graphics card, then you should either be someone who's developing games or you're rendering, like you are a small time animator or renderer or something like that. Because if you're spending that type of money on a graphics card, typically speaking, like you're going to be using this professionally, not just for playing games. Games would be the small part of your repertoire.
I was going to say it's a business PC, basically.
Well, for whatever your business is. Like, if you're a tax accountant, you're obviously not going to buy a graphics card. But if you are, let's say
business PC as in, like you're using something for graphics-wise, right?
Yeah, like if you're someone who, you do animation. you do 3D animation, and that's like you're independent 3D animator. Okay, you need a graphics card like that. If you are a someone who, you know, you're an indie game developer and you're making freaking games using Unreal Engine or, you know, stuff like that, yeah, you need a graphics card like that. But I mean, you know, that's a rarity.
Yeah.
So I would not spend that type of money. Like I'll be honest with you. I spent, in order for me to get the motherboard, the case, the memory for my Dynamite graphics, for my Dynamite new PC that I was going to build in 2020 before COVID hit and graphics card prices went up. I allocated like $1,800 to $2,000 for the whole thing, and I basically got
The whole build?
for the whole build. Because I mean, really, the most expensive part would have been because the CPU I got, the CPU normally retailed for $350. I got for $250, and it was 5900X AMD CPU, and then I was gonna get a 5900 XT graphics card to go with that, but you know, the graphics card crunch happened. So hopefully, if that goes down, it'll work. So the motherboard I had was an expensive motherboard, but I got all of that. I mean, the biggest part of my budget was going to be the graphics card, because I got everything else for around a little over $600, $650.
You kept
So
you kept the parts that the other parts under $500 mostly, right?
basically, well, I mean, really, the most expensive thing, the case was like 119, and with the rebate, it went down to 89. The motherboard was 250. No, the motherboard was 250 with the rebate 200, and then this the memory. I already had 64 gigs of memory already, just lying around from another PC build I did. So it's like, I mean, like I would not spend $2,000 just on a graphics card unless I was doing it for a professional build and I like I was doing like software rendering or something like that. I mean, not software, visual rendering or something like that.
Yeah.
There's no reason there. Like, if the only people who should be spending that type of money on a graphics card is if you're doing it for a professional reason. Just for gaming, like, there's no games that need a $2,000 graphics card to run that's on the market right now or will be on the market in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you just want to, show, unless you're one of these, unless you're one of these people that needs to have the best of the best of the best of the best,
Yeah, and even if that's the case, you're gonna have to spend at least $500 on a monitor that could take that $2,000 output. So even then, you're gonna be spending a lot of money. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't see the point.
MSRP is $500 to dollars if you get the Founders Edition, more than the 3090, and it's probably about like $700-800 if you go aftermarket, like third party card. And
Yes, I saw a thing where you only get 14% more. You only get 13% more.
yeah, it's like 13 to 15% more power from the 30.
More performance for what you're paying for, and I'm like, that no.
Yeah, I don't know why they just couldn't bend these cards lower so they could get more cards out there for people who are looking for stuff like, I don't know, they're already the cards like the 3070, 3060, 3080. It's just baffling to me. It's like, oh, we gotta. But and Jay's 2 cents brought this up. The 6900 XT was catching up to the 3090, and it was surpassing it in certain areas because software is, you know, it takes a little bit for software to catch up. And the problem with day one reviews is you don't see that right away. So you're just going off of, you know, what this card can do right at that moment. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
a few months down the road, when, you know, either cooling apparatuses from third parties get better, drivers get better, and whatnot, you might see a slight difference. Maybe not super significant, but
I
you
mean,
might see significance in certain areas, slight differences in other areas.
we're seeing what we always see: Nvidia overpriced hardware, because that's what Nvidia does. Because people will pay it because Nvidia, that's the way it was meant to be played.
And
And that's Nvidia's thing. They sell overpriced cards. Yeah, they're great, but I mean, come on, you know.
the thing is, you know, I was thinking about this today. If Nvidia, you know, because it's rumored that pretty much Nvidia's cards are power wise are going to be out of control. Like for this, you know, 3090 Ti, you need at least 1,000 watt, a kilowatt power supply minimum.
So you're probably going to have to upgrade your power supply in your computer,
Yeah.
unless you're okay having your games throttled if you want to run them at a higher at higher specifications, which, you know, could happen.
The 6900 XT, like, not the 69. If AMD comes out with a card, you know, equivalent to Nvidia's mid-range card, and it uses less power, that'll probably be the card I get before I get an Nvidia card, because, you know, at some point they used to pride themselves over efficiency and being able to do more with less. Because I noticed that when they went from the 900 series to the 1000 series, some of their higher end cards used less power. And then we took like a couple steps back because they wanted to chase ray tracing, which yet I haven't seen a game. I have not seen a game yet, except for Minecraft, that said, "Oh yeah, ray tracing looks pretty cool." And you know, they started chasing this ray tracing, so, you know, now we got to use more power.
Yeah, but still using less than an Nvidia card. I mean, you know, it's for AMD. It's a power hog. It's still it's not that bad.
No, I'm talking about Nvidia, because Nvidia was like, you know, Nvidia pride themselves in like, oh, we're, you know, more efficient, and then they just said, yeah, we'll just focus on ray tracing, and if people got to upgrade to a kilowatt power supply, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. People.
What do they care? I mean, because at this point, because remember, like last graphics card cycle for Nvidia, they released a more affordable graphics card, and it was great. And people all bought that mid-range affordable one and not the high-end one, and they got angry. so Nvidia's back to releasing overpriced graphics cards now.
Yeah.
So they have no incentive.
Yeah,
to do that.
It's just that you know, this. I guess it kind of bugs me because I wish they just marketed the 3090s as Titans, and even Titans have kind of gotten lackluster in the past few years. But I don't know. It's whatever. People can buy what they want. You want to spend $3,000 on a graphics card? It's your money.
Knock yourself out.
You can do whatever you want. I don't care.
I mean, I would rather take that money and do a staycation with my girlfriend. You know, eat at nice restaurants and, you know, go to nice clubs, see comedy venues and stuff like that. But, you know, to each his own.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I like throwing away money too, but man, that's just Sometimes people get a little out of hand.
Well, I mean, that's their prerogative. It's their money. As long as they're spending their money, I don't care. You know, and they're not asking me for money, then I don't care.
Yeah, just don't complain when you're talking about how broke you are. As well, it's like, man, you just bought like a $2,000
These games don't look
car.
that much better on your more expensive hardware. I don't want to hear it because
Yeah.
you spent that money. That was you.
This game still feels unoptimized. It's like, well, because it's not the hardware. It's the way the code's written. Yeah. But anyway, our last topic is that I guess Activision wants to remaster their Call of Duty games and port a few of them to the Switch. It's like, I don't know. I just think Call of Duty should take a break.
I wouldn't play a Call of Duty game on the Switch if you paid me to do it.
Yeah.
Not just because of Activision's dismal record with how they treat their employees, but like, we all know that third parties really don't care about porting games to the Switch, and I'm pretty sure Activision Blizzard is really not going to give a you-know-what about porting games over to the Switch. So why would I want to play an unoptimized version of Call of Duty on hybrid
Switch.
console?
Yeah.
Because if a game is unoptimized for the Switch, you can tell. Like, it's not like you're like, well, you know, it's just a little rough around the edge. It's like, no, they clearly did not give a flying you-know-what about putting this game on this console.
Yeah.
They didn't care. There was no attention put into it. I'm not surprised. So people need to calm down with that. That's all I'm saying. And we all know that's what's going to happen with the if this is true. You're going to get some unoptimized games running on the Switch.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be, oh, well, this game runs terribly. Not surprised. But it's a game from last gen. And here's the thing. If a game was on the 7th gen consoles, it should run fine on the Switch. But not from Activision Blizzard.
No. No, definitely not.
Expect some BS. That's all I got to say.
Back some BS and a screwing.
Yeah. Be prepared because it's Activision Blizzard. And Activision Blizzard is their motto should be, hey, prepared to get screwed over.
And here I was hoping that I'd have to wait until Wednesday to talk about these guys.
Anyway, is there any other topics you guys like to bring up before we call it a night?
No, I got nothing to say. We talked about what I wanted to talk about, which was the delay of Breath of the Wild, which was no one's surprise. Like, anyone was like, I can't believe. It's like, come on, man.
Nah, I wasn't surprised either. Alright, well, we'll close it out.
Yeah.
Give your sign-offs and we'll call it a day.
Thank you for joining us at Project Council. We'll see you next week at 7:30 p.m.
Alright, this is Mr. Red Fox, and I'm proud to BS Busters. Every Wednesday and Saturday, 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there's the BS Busters podcast. I'm joined by, typically, Kenosha Bamidino, Joel Ryder, Moonstar. And that's what I had to pimp out. I think I have a video coming out this week where I'm going to be talking about bad game design. the bad game design of Bethesda, and why I just don't trust anything they do. And that's going to be kind of fun.
This is Konoshi Abominito, Project Console, episode 25. We are powerful.